You're watching Bears Now by Chat Sports. Harrison Graham here. It's mock draft time. My fourth Chicago Bears mock draft is we're just a couple of weeks away from the real shebang being here. Get some draft outlook here for the Bears, and then we'll start making some picks. The draft is looming shortly, Thursday, April 28th. It'll be here. We'll be live on Chat Sports and some live here on Bears Now, so stay tuned for that. Bears currently have 6 picks. And some of the biggest needs include O-line, receiver, and cornerback. You could use another safety, another defensive tackle. There's a lot of areas the Bears could go, but I think those are your top 3 needs, and I think that is the order as well. These are the picks Chicago currently has. 2 in the second round, no first-round pick due to the Justin Fields trade. Number 39 and number 48, that one came from the Chargers in the Khalil Mack trade. Third-round pick, number 71 overall. Fifth-round pick, number 148 from the Anthony Miller trade from the Texans. Number 150 as well. And then in round 6, number 184, no 7th-round trade no 7th-round pick for the Bears, I should say. So 6 picks in total. Obviously, trading down in the draft to get more could be a possibility. Do you want to do a Bears fan-led mock draft? That basically means we're live with you guys. We do round by round, and you guys make the pick. If you want to do that, I think it'd be a lot of fun. We did it last year. I'd love to run it back. We need 500 likes on today's show. So like the video if you want to do a fan-led mock draft. And if we get over 500, we'll be sure to do that next Tuesday here on the show. All right, let's get this mock draft underway. 4.0 coming at you here from Bears Now. Kenyon Green, the offensive lineman out of Texas A&M, round 2, pick number 39. I think this is one of the top guards in this draft, and the beauty of Kenyon Green is he's actually played tackle, guard, right tackle, left tackle, both guard spots, and I think for the Bears he would be a guard, and I think that's his best position anyway. Now, my guy Tom Downey tells me he thinks his best position is left guard, but he should be able to play right guard just fine. That's kind of the opening right now on the depth chart. If you look at where Chicago sits on the O-line. But maybe you kick Cody Whitehair to right guard if you want to prioritize Kenyon Green and his potential and development. You could put him at left guard. I don't think guard fluctuation is as critical as tackle fluctuation. Obviously, there's big difference between left and right tackle. There is a difference between left and right guard, but I don't think it's as significant. If Green fell to 39, I would love it. I would love it for the Bears. He would be near the top of my list for dream picks at number 39. And I do think it's possible that he could get there. By the way, we're running today's mock draft through the Pro Football Network simulator. That's the one I have found most effective this year. So if you think these picks are unrealistic, well, you can go and blame those guys. Other players that were on the board when I made this selection, some good options. Perrion Winfrey, the defensive tackle out of Oklahoma. Iowa State running back Breece Hall. Devontae Wyatt, the defensive tackle out of Georgia. Cincinnati quarterback Desmond Ridder. And then Christian Watson, who's been linked to the Bears quite a bit, the wide receiver out of North Dakota State. Who's your dream pick for the number 39 overall selection for the Bears? One player that's at least somewhat realistic. Don't say Garrett Wilson because he's not going to fall to 39. But if you want to say Treylon Burks, maybe he falls. Could be a possibility. Let us know who's your dream pick for the Bears at 39. Next up, round 2, pick number 48. I go cornerback. Kyler Gordon out of the University of Washington. I think he's one of the top second-tier corners in this draft. He's not in the Derek Stingley, Sauce Gardner category, or even his own teammate Trent McDuffie. But I think after that tier, he's kind of in that next tier with Roger McCreary, who's been linked to the Bears at times. I think he's more of a nickel. So now that you have Tavon Young, I'd prefer to go outside corner. Had a strong pro day after not testing at the combine. Could sneak into round 1, but I think he goes round 2. And I think he's a plug-and-play starter right away. And if you add him, you kind of are set at corner, at least for the most part. You could certainly add more depth, but you bring Kyler Gordon in here, I think you have your 3 starting cornerbacks. I think Jalen Johnson, CB1. I think Kyler Gordon, CB2. I think Tavon Young's your nickel, and then guys like Thomas Graham and Kendall Vilder and Duke Shelley can be depth and competition, Let those guys compete. I don't think any job should just be handed out for the most part moving forward. Of course, there are exceptions like Justin Fields will start, Roquan Smith, but I think you let those other guys compete. But I think that trio of Johnson, Gordon, and Tavon Young can actually be a pretty solid cornerback room for the Bears this season. Other players that were available when I made this pick: Breece Hall still out there, Quay Walker, the linebacker out of Georgia, Travis Jones, the defensive tackle out of UConn, Wyoming linebacker Chad Muma, and then Kenneth Walker III, the running back out of Michigan State. All right, my first trade here on this mock draft. Trade alert. Woo, woo. Here it is. I receive a second round, that's actually a third round pick. Typo on my part. Number 75 overall from the Broncos. Get a fourth as well from number 115. I trade them the Bears third, number 71. Couple of typos. My bad. And then a fifth round pick, number 148. So there's a trade alert. So trading down from 71 to 75, picking up a fourth round pick. Skyy Moore, Western Michigan. I couldn't pass up on him again. That's 2 mocks in a row that I get the Western Michigan wide receiver. I think at 75, the value is just incredible. Undersized, but really good speed. He's smooth, really good after the catch. I think he's one of the best yak receivers, yards after the catch, in this draft this year. And I like the versatility. I think he played like 35% of his college snaps in the slot, which means he played some there, but he played a lot on the outside as well, which I think is valuable, meaning you can move this guy around. I think he'll probably be best suited in the slot since he's about 5'9.5", but to have that versatility to move him around, maybe you want to have some scheme and formation sets where Darnell Mooney plays in the slot and Skyy Moore bounces out side. I think that's only a good thing to have that variable type of offense. The production was obviously very good last year as well, 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns. This would be a steal in round 3. Quite frankly, I'd be surprised if he fell to 75, but every draft falls differently. We always say going into these drafts, and we do these mock drafts every year, there's no way this could happen. Last year, my final mock draft, I traded up with the Giants to draft Justin Fields at number 11, and I got killed in the comments. And look, I admitted it's fairly unlikely. Guess what? It happened. Things happen during the draft that none of us can predict. And I think this year, with it not being a quarterback-heavy class, it's going to be even more unpredictable. So don't be surprised if some curveballs happen on draft night. This would be a nice curveball if Skyy Moore is there in the middle of round 3. Other players on the board at this pick: Brandon Smith, the Penn State linebacker, South Alabama wide receiver Jalen Tolbert, Abraham Lucas, the offensive lineman out of Wazoo. I really considered that one, but I couldn't pass up on Skyy Moore. Myjai Sanders, the edge out of Cincinnati, and then Kingsley Enagbare out of South Carolina. Another trade alert here. This one's interesting. The Broncos offered me this. They get pick 115. I move back 1 pick to 116 and get a 7th. Cool. I mean, 7th-round picks are basically worth 0, but when Ryan Poles only has 6 picks in this draft, if you only have to slide back 1 selection to get an extra pick in round 7, weirder things are happening. You could land on, a key special teams player in the 7th round. Before we find out who I pick at 116, make sure you follow and subscribe to our main Chat Sports YouTube channel, youtube.com/chatsportstv, because for the last 3 or 4 years, we've had the most watched draft coverage on YouTube, and if you want to be a part of it this year, that is your opportunity. Subscribe, mark your calendars. April 28th, we will be live for round 1, 29th for rounds 2 and 3, and then, yes, unlike other channels and networks, we will not, crap out for day 3. We will be live for rounds 4 through 7 that Saturday as well. youtube.com/chatsportstv. Link will be in the comments and in the description of this video. Make sure to subscribe to Chat Sports today. Okay, round 4, pick number 116 after the trade. Eric Ezukanma, the wide receiver out of Texas Tech, about 6'2", 210 pounds, consistent production in college, especially this last year. Not the best athlete, didn't test great, kind of like a low, I think at 4.5, 4.40 at the vertical and all that stuff was just decent, nothing insane. But I watched him a lot in college, living down here in Big 12 country, and he won a lot against Big 12 cornerbacks, especially, on jump ball situations. And I think this would give you kind of a bigger physical player at the receiver position, which is a different look, right? Because Darnell Mooney and Byron Pringle aren't that. Skyy Moore wouldn't be that. Equanimeous St. Brown is a bigger, faster guy, but quite frankly, I actually think Ezukanma is better than him. I think he'll be a better player than St. Brown in the NFL. If nothing else, hey, you draft a guy who's going to be a top 3 receiver like Skyy Moore would be, and then you draft another guy and you say, all right, y'all compete for wide receiver 4. St. Brown, the guy who's been around, and Ezukanma can come in and compete with him as well. for those snaps and those opportunities. So I think he's going to be a better player in the pros, and we'll see what ends up happening. How many wide receivers should the Bears draft this year? 1, 2, 3, 0, 4, 5. You got 6 picks total going into the draft, but let us know how many receivers should the Bears draft this year. How about 3? I just took another one. Tyquan Thornton, the speedster out of Baylor. I couldn't help myself the way this draft fell. I just said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to get all the receivers. Thornton, one of the fastest players in the draft, ran a 4.28. Met with the Bears recently. I think that's notable that he took a top 30 pre-draft visit at Hallis Hall. Limited skill set. This is not a guy who's going to run all the different, the full route tree, but I think he can be a deep ball threat in the NFL. He proved that at Baylor with this past season, 15.3 yards per catch, had almost 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. He's 6'2" as well. Now he's 187. He's a little slight on the frame, has trouble at times beating press coverage, but if 3 or 4 times a year he's going to burn a secondary and get a 50-plus yard play, that those type of plays change games and can change the course of a season over time. This is the help Justin Fields mock draft. I mean, that's what this is. That's what this turned into, and quite frankly, that should be a lot of the focus in the NFL draft. I'm not saying you don't go out and get some defensive help. I'm saying that you need to get some O-line help. You need to get some more receivers. Like, that's what you need to do, and that's what I've done with this mock draft. Let's go offense again. Kind of a depth offensive lineman, Myron Cunningham, out of Arkansas. Really good size, 6'6", 325. Not a great athlete overall, but he mauls people in the run game, and we know the Bears are going to still want to run the football with David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. I think he's a developmental tackle. Could he be a swing tackle long term? I think that's possible. Maybe down the road he's a starting right tackle. Maybe he probably needs to get a little lighter on his feet. But depth, competition, you get into the 6th round, that's kind of what you're looking for, guys who can fight for roster spots and contribute. And the Bears need depth offensive linemen as well, not just starters. So I think he's a guy that could come in and, think of a guy like Lachavious Simmons. You could compete with him for a 53-man roster spot. All right, round 7, that was part of that trade. Pick number 232. Derion Kendrick, and you might remember this name. A couple of years ago when he was at Clemson, he was getting like round 2 buzz as a corner. He's got good ball skills, used to play receiver a few years back in high school, certainly played it. But then he just kept getting in trouble. Character concerns at Clemson, multiple legal situations, ends up getting dismissed. Transfers to Georgia, played a little bit, didn't play that much. I think there's questions if he's coachable. He also ran a 4.78 in his 40. Things have not gone well for this guy the last 18 months or so. But it's round 7, right? It's the 7th round. You can do one of 2 things in round 7. You can go risk-free and say, hey, this guy, had a good college career, but he's a tweener or something like that. He can at least, he's going to bring good energy to a locker room and fight for a roster spot maybe. Or you could swing big for a guy like Derion Kendrick, have a zero tolerance policy, say, hey, you run into any legal trouble, yada, 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 we're going to cut you. But you've shown some upside in the past that maybe you could be a starter down the road in the NFL if you can get things back on track. That's kind of the 2 ways you can go in round 7. I went the latter. I took a swing. If it doesn't work out, well, it's the 7th round. Not many guys even make rosters out of round 7. So here we go. Here's my mock draft recap. 4.0 is in the books. My second round picks, Kenyon Green, the guard out of Texas A&M at pick number 39, and then Washington corner Kyler Gordon at pick number 48. Third round, after trading down a few spots, Skyy Moore, the receiver out of Western Michigan. Picked up that 4th round pick after trading down from 71 to 75. Got Eric Ezukama, the receiver out of Texas Tech. Tyquan Thornton, the receiver out of Baylor in round 5. Myron Cunningham, the Arkansas offensive lineman. And then Derion Kendrick, the cornerback out of Georgia, who, when he was at Clemson, again, had some upside. That was my 7th round pick in this mock draft. So there you go. It's in the books. Grade Bears Mock Draft 4.0, ABCDRF. And don't forget to like the video if you want to do a fan-led mock draft on next week's live show.